Hi yogi friends, thanks for being here to practice with me today. This is another core practice to really build some strength in that midsection and increase our balance, but it's going to be an elevated core practice. So most of our movement today after our warm-ups is going to be standing poses and standing movements. If you don't have a block already, I would grab one. That's going to be useful later. And let's just begin by sitting in our comfortable seat, our Sukhasana here, with legs crossed or folded, however is most comfortable for you. Draw some attention to the temperature in the room, any sounds around you. And as you settle in, gently close the eyes. Notice the places in the body, those points where gravity has you really grounded securely against the surface beneath you. And take notice of any sensations in the body. Take notice of the spine. We'd like it to be tall and lengthened from the base of the tail in the pelvis all the way up through the crown of the head. Lengthening there. Draw some attention to the depth and pacing of your breath. And start to allow the breath to relax along with you. Generally, just drawing attention will allow it to slow down a bit and deepen. Let's take a big full belly breath here, really expanding the abdomen like a balloon on the inhale, fully drawing air into the lungs, and fully and completely exhaling that breath out, drawing the navel to the spine. And then from there, we'll repeat another big full belly inhale and a full and complete exhale. Once more, big full belly inhale, full and complete exhale. And on the next exhale, we're going to chant Om together to open our practice. And then we can gently and slowly open the eyes. We're going to begin with some warming up of the spine in our cat-cow. So first we need to come to tabletop. Hello, Peanut. Welcome to practice with us today. Spread the fingers nice and wide, really gripping into the fingertips and the thumb so that the hands are like little spiders on the mat. Knees beneath the hips, feet directly out behind the knees, drawing the navel up toward the spine, lengthening from crown to tail. Now you've got a good foundation to work from. So on an inhale, we'll drop the belly down, lift the crown and tail up. And then draw navel to spine as you press into the base of the palms, the tops of the feet and knees, drawing the navel up, and curving the spine toward the ceiling. And then on an inhale, we'll drop the belly again. Exhaling, drawing the navel up to spine, arching the back to the ceiling. Inhaling, dropping the belly, raising the crown and tail, and exhaling, drawing that navel up to spine. Let's do one more of each. Drop the belly on your inhale. And draw navel to spine, pressing through palms and feet as we draw that navel up and curve the spine toward the ceiling. Then we'll come back to a neutral position in our tabletop. From here, we're going to come into a down dog. So you may want to move the palms about one palm's length forward, curl the toes under behind you, lift the hips up in the air. As you come on to the balls of the feet, pedal the feet a bit. We're going to reach the heels toward the mat as we pedal the feet. Keep that gripping action in the fingers. So again, the hands are like spiders here. We want a straight line from crown to tail, and sometimes I find that to be a challenge as I want to achieve that. So just think of that. Lengthening crown toward the front edge of the mat, lengthening tail toward that crease between the ceiling and the wall behind you. You may eventually want to bring the feet to stillness. If you want to keep pedaling, you decide what feels best for you today. Really working with the feet here. You can play around a bit, doing what feels best for your body. And eventually you'll want to come to stillness. You may want to bring the toes slightly closer together so the heels can open a little bit. This allows some rotation in the hips and a little bit different sensation in the stretch. Allow a little space between shoulders and ears here too, so we're not creating tension in the shoulders and neck. And from this position, I'm going to walk the feet forward toward the hands, coming into a forward fold. And you can bend the knees here as generously as needed in order to be comfortable. We definitely want to feel the stretch in the back of the hamstrings, the back of the calves, but we don't want it to be anywhere near painful. Slight discomfort is okay, but we don't want it crossing over into pain. That's the body's way of saying that's not going to work for us today. So all that being said, just give yourself a little bend in the knees if you need it. If you want to go ahead and straighten the legs, just don't lock the knees. Do what works best for your body today. If the hands, palms come to the earth, great. If they don't and you want to bring a block to rest the hands on so that you can reach the surface beneath you, you can do that. From here, we're going to roll up to a mountain pose, rolling the shoulders back slightly, drawing the navel in and lifting up through the crown into a strong mountain. And then we're going to come to face the long edge of our mat. Now from here, I'm going to raise the arms up above the shoulders and clasp the hands in a steeple grip so that the pointer fingers are pointed and right against each other. The other fingers are clasped and the thumbs are facing upward, touching one another. From here, we will lengthen up through the spine and then we'll press the hips out to one side and lean toward the opposite side. So we're lengthening up and then leaning over. And we're using those abdominal muscles right now as to hold us in this upright position, but we're also stretching that one side nicely. Let's come back up to center. And again, lengthen up on an inhale and press the hips out to the other side, leaning opposite of the hips onto the other side. And again, think of lengthening up and then over. Drawing the navel in. And then back up to center. Let's lower the arms here. Bring the hands to the hips. And we're going to make some hip circles. So press the hips forward first, then over to the side, then to the back, and to the opposite side. Nice hip circles. Now, you can also notice that I'm wobbling back and forth on the feet. That helps me to protect my knees. If you need to do that too, to protect the knees from twisting, then do so. If you have any knee issues, old injuries, something not quite right with the knees, then you just really need to be careful, even if the knees are perfectly healthy. We don't want to twist them a lot. They're meant to bend, but not to twist around quite so much. Let's reverse those circles. Really pressing the hips forward, out to the side and back, leaning the torso as needed. Careful of the back. If this begins to be painful on the low back, then just lean a little bit less forward and back and keep the circle motion going, but don't lean quite as far forward or quite as far back. Let's come to the center now. Bring the elbows to a 90-degree angle so that the hands and fingertips are stretched right out in front. Make sure the the feet are right beneath the hips. And we're just going to lift the knees up to touch the hands. And we don't want to be leaning the body forward, so we're working with hip flexors and abdominal muscles to bring those knees up to touch the fingertips or the palms. And you'll notice, you start to feel this in those abdominal muscles. Maybe feeling it in the hip flexors too, really warming things up here. One more on each side. Bring the feet down, bring the hands down also. Bring the hips, the hands to the hips. And we're going to swing the leg from the hip forward and back. Just swinging from the hip, so we're warming up that hip joint. And the next time that your leg is forward, keep it extended, and then we're going to kick an imaginary ball just back and forth with the foot kicking from the knee. And the next time that the foot is forward, lower the foot almost to the ground, but have it lifted just enough so you can make some ankle circles, warming up the ankle here, and then taking those circles to the opposite direction. And then lowering that leg, maybe even giving it a little shake, because you can feel some effort was had in that leg. And let's swing from the opposite hip forward and back. This is a spot where if balance is a challenge, you can always put a hand on the wall, or if you have a chair nearby, you can use your chair as a support. If you're building strength in the core and working on balance, you want to keep stability as a priority. So you can use some surface to help ensure that you're stable and you can still be building this strength while not putting yourself at any risk. Next time the leg is forward, let's bend and kick from the knee. And then next time that the foot is forward, we'll make our ankle circles one direction, and then we'll go back the opposite direction. And then lower that knee, shake both legs out. You can definitely feel the efforts there and the muscles. Just give them a little shake. And from here, we're going to do our tree pose. This is another place where the wall, with the fingertips on the wall or the palm on the wall, can be a big help if you're working to build balance. If you are not needing some support from the chair or the wall and you want to do this without any support of the hands, you can start with hands on the hips, bringing the feet below the heel or below the hips. I have all my body parts confused today. Really pressing into the standing leg, whichever leg you decide to start on, pressing into that heel, lifting up through the spine, all the way from the heel up through the hip, and think of lifting all the way up, like there's a little string that someone is holding you up from the crown of the head. So you've got a good foundation here already. Find a point in front of you, even if it's just a little speck on the wall, that you can focus your gaze on. If it is at eye level or even about 12 inches above, that is ideal. That's helping you lengthen up. Come up onto the opposite toe of that standing leg first. This is step one. This may be a balance challenge already, and if it is, stay right here. If you would like to lift that foot and bring it inside the ankle, that's another option. This is a little bit more of a challenge. You can bring the foot up to the calf, slightly more challenge. You could even bring the foot all the way up inside the groin, with the heel just inside the groin and the sole of the foot pressing against the inside of the thigh. Again, this standing leg is really grounded and strong, and we're drawing the navel in, which helps us to keep the length up as well, because this strength that's pulling us up is also keeping us balanced. And if you'd like to challenge even more, you can draw the hands up in prayer position above the head. You could bring them to prayer position at the heart. You could lengthen them out from the shoulders into a V shape. If you are really trying to challenge your balance, you can even wave your arms like you were a tree. Wherever you want to be, hold that pose for just a moment. Remembering to gaze at that point out in front to help you stay nice and balanced. And then to come out of this, we're going to gently remove the foot wherever it is, come back to standing. And again, give the legs a little shake. This is hard work for the legs. Now we're going to do this on the opposite side. Ground the opposite leg. I first bend my knee and press into that heel and the ball of that foot. Really press down. It just cues my body to really strengthen my foundation in this leg. And again, think of a straight line from the heel all the way up through the knee, the hip, this side of the body, and then that little bit of a string pulling up on the crown of the head. Find your stationary point out front. Come up onto the toe. Remember that if you are working to build balance and stability, you can always put the hand against the wall, or you can hold on to a chair beside you, because we want your safety to be top priority here. If you're not already up on the opposite toe, come up onto that opposite toe, remembering to keep your strong foundation here, drawing the navel in. That also helps us keep the balance. You might bring the foot inside the ankle, inside the calf. Don't want to bring it right on the knee. That's not good for the knee joint. So either on the calf, or if you want to bring it up higher, bring it right inside the thigh, heel against the groin, and then decide where you want the placement of your hands and arms. And you might notice that one side is so much easier to balance on than the other, which is perfectly normal. We all tend to have a little bit of imbalance in the two sides of the body. So that's not unusual at all. Again, if you want to really challenge yourself, moving the arms around really challenges the balance here. Hold this for a couple more breaths. And if you come out of the pose, no big deal, just come back in. It's just like anything else in life, things get out of balance. We have to readjust, reset, and then we come back, get back on track. So it's just a metaphor for the rest of our lives. So it's actually a good thing if that happens in our practice every now and then. And to remind us we're capable of getting back on track. Let's gently let that foot back down and give the legs a shake. I give my hands a little shake too. Come to the short edge of your mat. Jazz hands, right? Let's lift the arms up above the shoulders. Lengthen up through the crown, lengthen through the fingertips. Allow the shoulders to relax away from the ears here. And then as we've lengthened, we're going to keep that length as we tilt the torso slightly forward, really engage that navel and that midsection. We're going to press the bum back as we begin to bend the knees. Notice I'm trying to keep my knees above my ankles as much as I can. Now, if the hands being lifted up here is a little hard, a little too challenging, always bring the hands down to prayer position. That's always another option. If you want to keep them extended out, you can. And we're just going to really slowly come down. We're going to make our way all the way to the floor. And if you do have your blocks nearby and you start to feel a little off balance, you can always use those blocks to help you make your way to the floor. You could even put one back here so that as you come down, you can sit on it. Or if it works for your body today, you can take that chair and just work your way all the way down, slowly but surely, using the fingertips to bring you all the way down to seated. All right. Another option too on your chair, always option to use the chair with your chair pose either in front or at the side to help you come all the way down and carefully reach the floor. We don't want anybody having a fall or getting out of balance. All right. Now, from here, we're going to lift the arms up over the shoulders, lengthen through the crown, coming to a forward fold. Really lengthening through the back, lengthening through the crown. Think of reaching the nose toward the toes. Allowing the arms to sit wherever is most comfortable. And then using fingertips to come back up to seated. Excuse me for the throat clearing. I've had a bit of a cold here lately. And from this point, we are actually going to do some rocking. So we'll come with the soles of the feet on the floor, knees bent toward the ceiling. Hands are going to hold the legs right below the kneecaps, just at the very top of the shins. And we're going to lengthen up through the crown, and then we're just going to roll back and forth. And so the abs are turning on here to help us come back up to seated each time. Let's do 2 more of these. And on this next one, we're going to attempt to come back up to standing from that seated position. That can sometimes be a challenge. You just do it however it works for you to come back up to standing. Sometimes it may or may not be graceful, but as long as we come back up to this standing position, we're good. From here, we're going to lift our knee to hip height. And I am on my right leg, so lifting my right knee toward hip height. And I'm going to put the hands on the hips to start. And then from here, I'm going to bring the foot just under my bum and lean the torso forward as I tip to this almost like a extension of the head and crown, almost like a table. And my foundation is my standing leg. I'm going to try to keep, the right hip is going to want to come up, so I want to try to keep the hips parallel to the floor, and that's going to really turn on my left hip, and then you also can draw the navel up to the spine, and I'm already starting to wobble. So if you come out here, you just start over again, bringing the knee up, extending it back. Now, if the hands are on the hips, that's fine. You can also extend one arm or both arms out in front. And then you can come back through the middle and bring that knee right back up to hip height again. So your standing leg is probably really talking to you. It's doing a lot of work. And then you also want to really engage this midsection and the pelvic floor as we move back and forth in this pose. And again, keeping the hands on the hips is totally fine because you're doing a lot of work here. You can always add those arms later on as you build strength. And a little wobble is a perfectly normal thing too, because as you're building strength, the body is readjusting. This is a lot of challenge to the balance here. All right, this next time we're going to lengthen that leg back behind, and we're going to really extend the toes back and bring them down to the mat as we bend the front knee. So now we're in a high lunge here. We're on the toes and the ball of the foot behind us. We want this front knee to be right over the ankle, and you might need to move that front foot slightly out to the left. This is the left leg in front. And we want our hips to be equidistant from the front of the mat. So that might mean you may have started to open up on the side here just a little bit. So we want to bring the hips back so that they're parallel with the front of the mat. Lengthen up through the crown, front knee right over front ankle. And if this feels good and stable, with the feet in position like railroad tracks, you might bring one or both arms up overhead and hold here. You might, if you have a chair beside you, you could have one arm up. Or if you have the wall beside you, you could have one arm up. And from here, we're going to bend the back knee a little bit and use some momentum there to raise that foot up and then come right back up to standing. And your standing leg might really be saying, dude, you're working me hard, and we are. So give it a little shake. Give it a little shake. And we're going to do this on the opposite side. So really pressing into the right leg, which is our standing supportive foundation, lengthening up through the crown. Again, we want to have that nice straight line from heel to knee to hip all the way up. And if we can think of lengthening up first, then drawing the navel in and engaging the pelvic floor, that's going to help us stay tall and balanced. Lifting the left knee up to hip height, hands are on the hips. Let's lengthen that left leg out behind as we bend the torso forward. Again, remember we want our hips to be parallel to the floor. Lengthening out through the heel of that foot. Let's bring the knee back forward to hip height again. And then lengthen back out. You may or may not want to lengthen those arms out in front. If you have a chair or wall for support, you may do one arm. It's perfectly fine to keep both arms right here on the hips, or have one arm on the hip, one hand on the hip, and one hand on a chair to support this movement back and forth, especially if you're building strength and at all concerned about losing your balance. Then I want you to have a chair or the wall, using one of those props as a support to keep you balanced as you build this core balance strength. Let's keep moving here. Just moving back and forth with that knee at hip height and extending out back. And this time we're going to bring the toes back as far as we can, bending the front knee. Notice where that knee is. We went right over the front ankle. Again, I'm going to need to move my front foot just slightly so that my feet are like railroad tracks, because that's giving me a lot of stability so that they can be parallel lines. And from here, if I'm holding on to something, I may lift one arm up. I may keep the hand on the hip. I might bring both arms up into my high lunge. And again, we want to keep the hips parallel with the front of the mat. So if you need to adjust there, do so. Holding in this position for a moment. If the arms are lengthened up, allow some space between shoulders and ears. Think of lengthening through crown and fingertips. Bending the back knee so that we can have some momentum there. Let's bring the hands back down to the hips. Use that little bounce in the back knee to bring that foot forward and shake out the legs. Whew. A lot of work there. A lot of good balance work. All right. Can you feel that heartbeat? Can you feel the breath? The breathing, bringing all that oxygen to your muscles. They need it. They're doing extra work. This time we're going to come to the front edge, close to the front edge. And from here, we're going to lengthen up again. Do a little back bend at the top here. And then bring the hands down to prayer position and close the eyes for a moment so that we can really focus on our breath and our heartbeat. Honor the hard work that they are doing to fuel the hard work that we are doing by circulating our blood, bringing us oxygen and nutrition. All of our systems working together here. All right, we've taken a moment to honor that. Let's come to the long edge of our mat, spreading the feet wide, about 3.5 to 4 feet. If you don't already have a block handy, at the front edge and at the back edge of your mat, I would have one in each place. That'll come in handy here. And let's lengthen the arms out on either side of the shoulders. Turn one foot out 90 degrees so that that ankle is in a straight line with the arch of the foot and back. We're going to come into a warrior two. So we'll bend the front knee as if the knee were going to track right over the middle toes. And I would like to provide a little more space between my feet. So I'm going to walk the back foot back, just heel toe back a little bit, placing all of the weight into the outer edge. That helps to protect my knee. And you can also draw the toes in ever so slightly so that that helps all of that weight be in the back edge of the foot. And if you need to move that around so that it feels more comfortable, do so. Get your good strong foundation before you come fully into this pose. Bending that knee, if you can, right over the ankle. And if you're not there yet, just make that where you're working toward. Let's hold here in warrior two, really tall through the spine, really opened through the hips. Knee tracking over those front toes, but not extended beyond the ankle. And just hold here and feel your strength. This is a very strong pose. And you've proven how strong you are because we've worked really hard here today. From here, let's come back up to a straight leg. And I'm going to move my back foot in just slightly because we're coming into a triangle. And I know with my body, I need to have the foot just slightly closer to the other one. Lift the fingertips on the front hand toward the sky. And then press toward that wall out in front. Just press as if you're going to touch that wall. We're moving from the hips here. And then we're going to tip forward into our triangle pose. And this is where, if you need that block, bend your front knee, grab that block, and rest the fingertips, the palm on the block if you need to. Really opening through this top hip. If it's very tight, it may want to roll forward. Honor that, and just know that you're working toward an open hip here eventually. Ideally, we want a straight line between the fingertips up top and the fingertips down below, and we want to lengthen out through the crown of the head. This is another balance pose. A lot of core strength comes into play here. To come out, I bend the front knee in order to be gentle on that joint, lifting the arms up to shoulder height again, and then lowering the arms down. Let's do this on the other side. So move that block if you need to. It'll be just inside the arch of the opposite foot. Lengthen those feet 3.5 to 4 feet apart. Turn that front foot out to 90 degrees. Heel in line with the arch of the back foot. Raise arms to shoulder height. Bending the front knee right over the ankle. Maybe you have to move that back foot slightly. Again, all the weight in the outside edge of that foot. Just bring those toes in just a tiny bit, and that will facilitate that weight being concentrated in the outer edge. This front knee ideally will be right over the ankle. Notice how this feels different on this side of the body. Generally, one leg is a little stronger than the other. Allow space between shoulders and ears. Lengthen through the crown, draw the navel in. Feel your strength here. Feel how strong your body is here. And then from this position, we're going to straighten the front leg, lift the front fingertips, press toward the wall in front of us, and lean over into our triangle pose, bringing the block into play wherever you need it to be, and really opening up through this top hip as much as you can. Remember, we're not crossing over into pain. A little bit of discomfort means we're really working something, but pain is the body's way of letting us know it's too much and that we need to back off a little bit. As you're getting strong in the triangle too, it's perfectly fine to stack blocks, lift the block up as high as you need it, or even just stretch to the side, and maybe even not come all the way down to a block. So listen to your body and what it needs today. If there's a little shake, that means you're really building a lot of strength. Let's bend that front knee, lift the hands back up to shoulder height, straighten the leg, and lower the arms down. Okay, come to that short edge of the mat again. We're going to come into a chair again. So lift up through the fingertips. Open the front body, really lengthen up, pointing the tailbone toward the floor, not tucking it, but just making sure that it's not overextending out the back. Some of us have a tendency to overarch the low back, and we don't want to do that. Lengthen up, press the bum back, keep a straight back, coming into our chair with knees bent over the ankles as much as we can, keeping arms on either side of the ears or bringing them into prayer position. Lower down slowly, slowly, coming all the way down to the ground. And from here, we're going to lengthen into our Dandasana again, legs straight out in front, arms clasped in a steeple grip. We're going to lower slowly. So we're doing some more abdominal work here as we slowly lower. Sometimes the feet like to come off the ground. That's okay. We're building strength. Do a full body stretch here, really lengthening out through the base of the palms and the heels, stretching that belly. Maybe working your way back onto your mat if you're like me and happened to come down a little off the mat. Get ourselves situated here. And we'll lengthen those feet back out. And then bring the knees to the chest. And we're going to hug the knees with the arms and maybe rock a little side to side here. Little massage for the low back area. And then as we come to stillness, we're going to use the abdominal muscles and a bit of the chest to lift the nose toward the ceiling first and then bring it toward the knees. And if you can hold here, awesome. And if you want to challenge yourself a bit more, you can lengthen the arms out so that the fingertips are reaching toward the wall that would be in front of you. And then we can lower the head gently down, and we'll lengthen those legs back out again into another full body stretch. Really opening up that front body because we've done a lot of contraction there, so we really want to open it back up again. And from here, we're going to come into a bridge pose. And I'm going to grab my block, because you might want to do a supported bridge here. So to do a regular old bridge pose, we just bend the knees so that they are facing toward the ceiling, soles of the feet on the mat. As we're lying down, arms are right beside the body. Pressing into the heels, keeping the knees right above the ankles, and lifting the hips up. So here is a standard bridge, keeping the knees over the ankles, using a bit of activation in the glutes and the pelvic floor and the thighs. Think of reaching the knees forward, holding the hips up. If you want to do a supported bridge, then bring your block right here between the tail and the sacrum, and that can feel really nice because it lets you just relax into the bridge and not put forth quite as much effort, because we've put a lot of effort into this practice today. So it's a-okay to allow the body to relax here some. We still get the benefits of this bit of inversion from our bridge without quite as much effort in the muscles of the low body. And we've worked them out quite a bit, so this can feel really nice. We will have to come out eventually. And to do that, just press into the heels again, lift the hips up a bit so that you can remove the block and then lower the hips back down. And we are going to now come into a fish or a supported fish. I'm going to show you the fish first, and then we'll do the supported fish because that makes a nice transition into Shavasana. So to do fish, you want to place the palms flat on the mat right under the bum on one side, and then lift the bum up on the other side and place that palm right under that side of the bum. So the hands are right underneath the fleshy part of the bum. And then we're going to work the elbows a little bit closer to one another underneath the sides of the ribs. And from here, we're going to press into the forearms and the elbows and lift the torso up and then bring the head to rest on the mat. But most of the weight is in the bum and the forearms. You want very little weight in the head. For years I did this wrong because there should be maybe only 10% of the whole body weight in the head. That's too much weight on the neck if it's any more than that. So if you look at this or you try this and you're like, no way, Jose, not for me today, then to come out, press into those forearms again and lengthen back down. You can lift the bum up on either side to release the hands, and you can do a supported fish. So we'll bring our bolster or a firm pillow, even a rolled up blanket can work for this, either on the bolster or just on the floor. Roll it up so that it's as thick as you can get it. So multi-rolls, I'm going to show you how to do it even on that, since you may or may not have a bolster or pillow. I would put the most sturdy side of the blanket closest to your bum. And you can start with it really close to the bum and low back, right up against it. We'll start there and roll down so that it's right beneath the spine. And since my blanket is a little shorter than my bolster, my head comes to rest on the mat or the floor behind the blanket, and that's fine. If it's uncomfortable at all on the low back here, just move the bum forward a little bit so it's the blanket or bolster not right against the low back and the bum, and that just prevents there from being too much curve there in that low back if it's really uncomfortable or even painful. Open the palms to the sky, allow the arms to rest on the floor beside you. Legs are extended out in front. Feet are just swapped open to both sides. We're going to rest here in Shavasana for a couple of minutes, allowing yourself to just be and breathe. Just be and breathe. Any thoughts that come to mind, we're going to let them pass through without attachment or judgment. You can do a body scan. You can pay attention to sensations, pay attention to the breath. I'll let you know when to come back to full awareness. For now, just be and breathe. Let's begin to bring a little bit of movement to the fingertips and the toes. Maybe move the ankles, rocking the feet from side to side, maybe making some wrist circles. Another full body stretch here. Maybe even a little rock of the hips gently, very gently from side to side. Let's roll over off the bolster or the blanket, whichever you have. Just roll over onto the side body and rest the head on the arm, keeping the eyes closed here. One full breath cycle in this side lying position. And again, keeping the eyes closed, we're going to press with the hands, bringing us up to seated again. Let's bring, if you like, the blanket right behind the tailbone, if that provides a little extra support for your Sukhasana, your easy seat here. You can do that. Coming into this cross-legged, comfortable seated position. Drawing attention again to any sensations in the body. Noticing any differences between now and when we first came to practice. Drawing attention to the breath, the pacing, and the depth of the breath. Noticing any shift in our state of mind, any shift in our emotions, if there's been any. And again, drawing attention to those points in the body where we're grounded and centered in this space. Lengthen up through the spine once more. Let's take a big inhale and we'll chant Om together on the exhale. Om. Drawing the hands together at prayer position at the heart space. Let's lift the thumbs up to touch the forehead. May we have peace in our thoughts. Bringing hands to rest on the lips. May we have peace in our words. And finally, bringing hands back to the heart space. May we have peace in our hearts. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. And I bow as I say, Namaste. Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. You've done a tremendous amount of work on strengthening your core and your balance. So I congratulate you on putting forth the effort today and just making it here to make this time for yourself. I hope this practice has brought some peace and tranquility to your day and that you can now carry that out into the larger world to spread it into the community. And I thank you again for being here. Can't wait to practice with you again very soon. Namaste.